lost my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Join me on Patreon to watch up to 5 episodes of this series and others in advance that are live right now. With that said, enjoy. Bardock lay beside Jean in their softly cushioned bed, watching the faint glow of hundreds of distant stars spill through the window. His mate and their baby son, Kakarot, finally slept soundly, thanks to Gina's soothing lullaby, but sleep still wouldn't come for him. He rolled onto his back, closed his eyes, and willed himself to drift off. An hour passed, and he hadn't budged. "I'm really getting soft," he thought, staring at the ceiling. He slid out from under the covers and set his bare feet on the cool floor. Padding into the kitchen, he grabbed a cup and filled it with water. On the counter lay a yellow, cone-shaped fruit with green spots, one of Jean's favorite finds. Bardock squeezed it hard over the cup, filling the air with a sweet, tangy scent. After capping it, he shook the drink until he saw tiny bubbles cling to the sides. He twisted off the lid and took a long sip, letting the fresh flavor wake him. Carrying the cup, he stood by the wide window. Outside, the night sky stretched out in a sea of blue-black, punctuated by shimmering stars. On a world of fierce warriors, the view always struck him as strangely gentle. A soft sound interrupted his thoughts. Footsteps, barely louder than a whisper. Despite a lifetime of clashing swords and roaring explosions, Bardock's senses were sharp enough to catch the faint shuffle behind him. He turned, and there was Kakarot, eyes bright and wide, as awake as his father. The boy wore nothing but his pants, armor and shirt left behind, and clutched at Bardock's leg. "Can't sleep either, can you?" Bardock asked, setting the cup on the counter. Kakarot looked up with a small grin before trying to crawl higher, his tiny fingers digging in. Bardock winced as a fingernail grazed his skin. With a quick, gentle motion, he scooped the boy up by his tail and placed him on the counter beside the cup. "This is where you'll be chopping meat when you're old enough," Bardock teased, brushing a stray hair off Kakarot's forehead. "Try not to make a mess, okay?" "Uh-huh," the boy replied, his gaze drifting back to the window. Together, they watched the stars. Kakarot's eyes filled with wonder as he stared at the sparkling lights. Bardock allowed himself a quiet laugh, placing a hand on his son's small shoulder. He lifted the cup again and took another long drink, the sweet fruit flavor lingering on his tongue as father and son stood side by side in the silent glow of their homeworld's night. "I used to wonder what lay beyond this world," Bardock began, his voice low as he watched Kakarot sip the last drops of the fruit drink. The little boy's eyes were glued to his father, as if already piecing together every word. "Growing up as a warrior, I dreamed of endless battles. Every fight could have been my last, but that danger made me love the clash of power all the more. The day I first set foot on a real battlefield, I felt alive, truly myself. People doubted me, said I'd never be strong enough, but I proved them wrong. Now, I'm respected among our people." Kakarot shifted on the counter, tail curling around his little leg. He looked up, eyes shining. Will I fight someday, Papa?" Bardock smiled and ruffled his son's hair. "You will. When you're old enough, you'll see for yourself. That fire inside you won't let you stay behind. Lower-class workers like us don't decide our fate. Our spirit does." He stepped away, standing tall beneath the soft glow of the night sky. Jean's warning echoed in his mind that Kakarot had kicked the guard who came to fetch him. A mischievous spark in a child's heart was often the sign of a true warrior's spirit. Bardock met his son's gaze and placed a hand on his small shoulder. "Don't let your status hold you back from who you truly are," he said, voice firm but gentle. "No matter what you become, you must follow your own path." As those words left his mouth, Bardock felt a weight lift from his chest. He had shared more than he ever had, even with Jean. He didn't notice Jean standing quietly in the doorway, a soft smile on her lips. She had heard every word. Seeing Bardock open up like this surprised her, but in her heart, she knew it was a sign of how much he'd changed. He wasn't as hard as he pretended to be, and her love had made him softer, kinder. Later, deep within the palace research labs, pencils scratched and machines beeped. King Vegeta surveyed rows of scholars bent over notes and data. His gaze settled on 2 lead scientists, Morocco and Shido, each presenting different theories on the same problem. But another figure caught his eye. A young girl, a clone with hair the shade of grape, worked quietly at a terminal. All other clones wore berry blue hair, like the woman who collected data in the nursery. This one had chosen purple. King Vegeta's brow furrowed as he stepped closer. "What is she doing here?" he asked. None of the scientists glanced over at whom the king was pointing. Everyone knew a child here would be odd, yet after watching her work, they decided she belonged among them. One of the senior researchers cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, she's been assigned to the Cyberman project." The girl spun around in her rolling chair, a proud smile lighting her face. "My king, I'm here because I've already improved the life support inside our incubation pods. Now, no subject ever runs out of oxygen." She leaned forward, eyes bright. "Once I wrap this up, I plan to develop a way for our warriors to heal on the trip home from missions." King Vegeta studied her carefully. She looked no older than his son, yet she spoke with the confidence of a seasoned veteran. He didn't question it further. Intelligence was all he cared about. "Explain your current objective," he ordered. She tapped her notes and kept her gaze steady. "One trusted advisor suggested we find a way to speed up a Saiyan's strength growth. I thought we could use the cultivars, those battle plants we grow, to help. Instead of just training with them, we'd first let them grow strong, then study how they strengthen our fighters." "And who told you this?" the king pressed. "One of the senior scientists," she said, pointing to Morocco. Morocco, once a frontline warrior, now stood quietly, nodding. The king nodded once. "Go on," she continued. "We could modify the soil to boost their power, but my mentors advised testing directly on the Cyberman pods. Progress is slow, but we expect a breakthrough soon. If it drags on, I'll shift back to engineering the soil itself." King Vegeta's eyes narrowed in approval. He liked her straightforward approach, and the fact she got right back to work, furiously scribbling new calculations. That kind of drive was rare. He gave his final order. "I expect this done before Prince Vegeta returns." She looked up from the small, pea-sized Cyberman seedling on her desk. "It'll take longer than that, Your Majesty. Give us time after he leaves again, and I guarantee completion." Time was precious, but cutting corners could ruin the results. He gave in. "Very well, that's your deadline." As he turned to leave, he glanced back over his shoulder. "What is your name, child?" She stopped writing and straightened. "The name is Kuni." He allowed himself a rare, small smile. "I'll remember that name." King Vegeta paced the long, silent corridors of his palace, the polished stone echoing each step. His hand drifted to his chin, stroking the dark goatee as his mind circled back to Kuni's brilliance. A girl so young, yet already revolutionizing life support pods and planning battlefield medkits. She could become his greatest asset. If she stayed on this path, her scientific breakthroughs might uplift not just Prince Vegeta, but every Saiyan warrior who followed him. Yet another thought weighed on the king's heart. Jine's question about keeping Saiyan children at home. On one hand, raising them here meant they'd be trained or set to work, boosting fertility rates and ensuring strong fighters were born into the warrior class. On the other hand, children slaughtered by the Galactic Patrol represented wasted potential. If Prince Vegeta ever led a revolt against Frieza, he would need every capable warrior on his side. Vegeta stopped before a tapestry of the royal crest and let out a low breath. "Strategy and strength must walk hand in hand," he murmured, pressing a fist to his chest. "A true king uses both blade and mind." Millions of light years away, the world of the Dinojin lay bathed in the soft glow of twin suns. Vast forests of towering, lustrous trees spread beneath dark green skies. From a distance, the inhabitants resembled living dinosaurs, emerald scales, lethal claws, and teeth sharper than any saber. Yet they were anything but savage. The Dinojin had built a thriving civilization, complete with councils, packs, and even a specialized defense force to guard against raiders. Their capital city stretched out like a living tapestry. Low, connected buildings, housing markets, workshops, and homes, all perfectly arranged for ease and safety. Early in the afternoon, the peaceful hum of daily life shattered as two sleek cruiser ships and a lone attack pod tore through the sky. They crashed into the heart of the city, sending rails screeching and stones splintering. Alarm sirens blared. Dinojin defenders poured into the streets, rifles in clawed hands. Their weapons were a curious blend of ancient craftsmanship and alien technology, silvery barrels tipped with red suppressor crystals that glowed ominously. As the dust settled, 5 warriors emerged from the wreckage, unmoving, calm as statues against the chaos. The defenders tightened their grips on their rifles, stepping forward as one. First came Bruce and Sprout, duo warriors known for their cunning. Bruce's dark bronze skin reflected the sun's, and his hair swept upward in two sharp arcs, like the horns of some ancient beast. Sprout, lighter in tone, flicked her wrist in a casual greeting, her eyes scanning the defenders with cool assurance. Behind them, Nappa stood like a mountain, at 7 feet tall, bald except for a thick mustache. His bulging muscles rippled beneath battle armor that looked barely able to contain his size. Every rising vein spoke of raw power. Just looking at him made hearts pound. To Nappa's left, Raditz shifted his weight nervously. This was his first real mission, and he swallowed hard. Yet beside him, a boy of only 8 years old stood perfectly still. His spiky hair was jet black, and his eyes shone with fierce determination. This was Prince Vegeta, already carrying himself with the pride and confidence of a seasoned fighter. The Dino Jin spoke in low, rolling tones, words rough as grinding stone. Their language rattled the air. One brave defender stepped forward, raising his suppressor-equipped rifle, but not firing. "Our city lies in ruins," he barked through a translation device. "You have invaded without warning. Declare your purpose, or prepare for battle." Bruce lifted a single hand, energy crackling faintly at his fingertips. "We are warriors of the Saiyan race," he said, voice steady. "We seek to test our strength and claim this world in the name of our prince." A hush fell. The Dino Jin glanced at one another, uncertainty flickering in their reptilian eyes. Then, Nappa's deep laugh rolled like thunder. He slapped Raditz on the back, making the younger Saiyan jump. "Let's give Raditz the honors," he rumbled. "After all, chump, this is your first mission as a combatant." Raditz let out a fierce grin, savoring the moment. He gathered his energy, ready to incinerate every defender. But before he could strike, the Dino Jin's rifles unleashed a paralyzing roar, an ultrasonic blast so powerful it locked muscles in place. Raditz's limbs froze, though Nappa, Vegeta, Bruce, and Sprout stood firm, unaffected. A Dino Jin lunged at Raditz, claws aimed for his throat. Instinct kicked in. Bruce and Sprout dove in, each using swift taijutsu-style sweeps to knock 2 attackers off their feet. Nappa and Vegeta, meanwhile, reduced 5 more to ash with a pair of galactic flare beams, a signature Saiyan energy blast. Raditz shook off the paralysis and raised his left arm to strike, but a scaled fist smashed into his elbow, the force cracking his bones. Fury ignited inside him. He responded with a solid punch to the creature's jaw, but it barely flinched. A counterpunch slammed into Raditz's cheek, sending him skidding across the smooth Dino City road. He sprang back up, channeling ki into his fist for a point-blank violet chi attack. The blast surged forward, only to fizz harmlessly against the creature's thick hide. Without missing a beat, Raditz drove a jagged knee into its groin. Yet even that failed to faze the defender. Thinking quickly, Raditz ducked a heavy swing and looped his tail around the Dino Jin's ankle, flipping it onto its back. He readied to finish the move, but the relentless, scaly warrior rolled free and lunged again. Across the battlefield, Vegeta and the others made short work of their foes. Nappa stomped one defender's helmet flat, red blood spattering his boot. "Weaklings!" he growled. Bruce nudged Sprout, and they watched Raditz lock horns with his opponent. Each blow met with equal force, neither giving an inch. The fight looked endless. High above, Prince Vegeta hovered, analyzing every technique. Raditz targeted sensitive spots: gut, temple, side of the nose, just like Vegeta would. But it became clear the Dino Jin's skin absorbed pain far better than a Saiyan's. This stalemate would drag on too long, leaving them all exposed. Seizing the moment, Vegeta fired a slender beam of ki, Crimson Lance, piercing the creature's skull. The Dino Jin froze, then collapsed. "Huh?" Raditz stumbled back, eyes wide at the sudden end. "Whoa, Vegeta!" Nappa exclaimed. "The fight was just getting good." "Their genetic makeup lets them endure pain better than us," Vegeta explained, landing beside them. "If we fought evenly matched foes, we'd waste time and risk losing to cumulative damage." "Really?" the others chorused. "Of course," the prince said with a grin. "But, admittedly, I also just wanted the kill." "Very classy," Raditz remarked sarcastically. Besides, Vegeta tapped his scouter and surveyed the burning streets. "We've got hundreds hiding in those shops. Let's hit the appetizers before the main course. With a swift motion, he unleashed a Nova Impact volley. Dozens of pinpoint energy blasts at every storefront. In a heartbeat, pristine buildings erupted in flames, and the heat leapt from one structure to the next like wildfire. Not even 30 seconds later, the air filled with blood-curdling screams of horror and agony. The 5 invaders, Vegeta, Nappa, Raditz, Bruce, and Sprout, watched with cruel delight as civilians cried out. Even if they survive the fires, Bruce observed, voice cold, they'll be in a world of pain. Then they'll wish they were dead, Sprout added, her lips curling into a grin. Suddenly, distant alarms blared. The Saiyan warriors recognized what it meant. Death squads incoming. Far off, hundreds of bike-like hoverbikes blazed toward them, engines roaring. "Oh, this is going to be a blast," Nappa rumbled, cracking his knuckles. "Remember what I said," Vegeta called out. "They're tough. Aim for weak points. Tear off limbs if you must." Nappa's grin widened as he ground his teeth in savage anticipation. He thrived on moments like this. The chaos and carnage fueled his bloodlust. "Give 'em hell!" Vegeta commanded. "Say less, Prince." One of the frontline riders spotted Nappa's hand signal, 2 fingers raised, and immediately, darkness engulfed the lead hoverbikes. Explosions rocked the air as hidden charges detonated beneath the riders. Through the smoke and fire, Bruce, Sprout, Vegeta, and Raditz dashed forward, continuing their massacre. The once cloudless green skies of the Dinojin world were now choked with black smoke. Flames licked at every corner, and terrified civilians trapped inside collapsed, overcome by toxic fumes. As the last defenders fell, silence finally reclaimed the city, broken only by distant crackles of burning wood. A new day dawned on planet Vegeta. The harsh sun beat down like it owed the world a debt. Bardock rubbed his eyes. He'd managed only a half hour of sleep before Kakarot's wails dragged him awake. Grumbling, he rose and made his way outside. He found his friends, Toma, Salipa, Pumbukin, Totapo, and Leek, in their usual spot just beyond the busier district. Here, they felt safe enough to let their guard down. They sat on low stools made of hardened earth, clustered around a rough-hewn table for their morning game of card janken. Toma cracked his knuckles, a confident grin spreading across his face. "All right, stakes are up today. Winner gets the loser's spear for a week." Salipa cocked an eyebrow. "You sure you want to risk your dinner rations, Toma? You've lost more than you've won." Toma laughed. "Lucky streak's in my favor today." Pumbukin dealt 3 cards to each player, except Totapo, who preferred to watch silently. Totapo's quiet presence was steadying. He didn't gamble, but he enjoyed their banter. Bardock shuffled his own cards, glancing at Kakarot's empty crib in the next room. The morning heat made the metal of the table warm under his fingers, but he settled in, ready to play. Toma peeked at his hand and couldn't hide his excitement. His grin widened. He knew he was holding the cards he needed. Salipa reached into the armored chestplate of her battlesuit and pulled out a small glass vial filled with a thick, glowing green slime. Setting it carefully on the wooden table, she smiled as the other fighters leaned forward, curiosity lighting their faces. Usually, they'd wager food or mission rewards, but when Saibaimen were on the line, stakes shot through the roof. "Saibaimen," Pumbukin rumbled with a chuckle, the husky warrior brushing back his shaggy brown hair. He thrust his furry hand into the pocket of his worn pelt under his armor. 2 more slimy vials appeared as if by magic. "I say we kick it up a notch." Totapo didn't miss a beat. He flicked out 5 small bottles from beneath his cloak and lined them up. "Add these too. Winner takes everything." Salipa clapped her gauntlets together. "Nice going," she praised, glancing from Totapo to Bardock. "Now, Bardock, how many do you have?" Bardock, usually so calm, fumbled at first. He dug one hand into his chest plate, then the other, pulling out vial after vial of captured Saibaiman slime. Totapo snickered softly, and the others burst into laughter at the sight of Bardock trying to juggle 10 tiny bottles in his massive hands. At last, he slammed them all on the table with a satisfied thunk. 10? Toma's eyes widened. He'd only managed 6. "That's at least 40 Saibaimen," Leek pointed out, leaning in to count them. Bardock shook his head. "I don't even use these things. I'd rather transform under the full moon than rely on those ugly creatures." Toma grinned in full agreement. "I feel that. Challenges make us stronger. That's why our team's the best." Pumbukin tapped his chin and did a quick count. 1, 3, 8, 14. 24. He peered at Leek. Where are yours? Leek scratched the back of his head, cheeks reddening. I kinda used them all. Heh. Salipa gave Leek a playful shove. Looks like you and Totapo are on the sidelines. Really? Leek's voice wavered. Totapo tucked 3 of his cards back into the deck. Yep. Leek slumped, while Toma glanced at his own 3 cards, hiding them. Alright, let's get this show on the road. In perfect unison, the 4 fighters dropped a card each. The table rattled with anticipation. Rock, Toma declared, throwing down his card. Rock, Bardock echoed, voice calm. Pambukin laughed and slapped his card. Scissors? Rock, Salipa added, eyes gleaming. Leek leaned over Totapo's shoulder as Totapo marked the score. Strike 1 for Pambukin, Leek teased. Pambukin's grin faded. He tensed, determined to focus. Chance or no chance, he would win. Let's just finish this so I can take everything, Toma said, already gathering his second card. Again, they slapped their cards down. Rock! Toma's voice was steady. Paper. Bardock's tone was measured. Rock. Pumbukin forced himself to stay calm. Scissors! Salipa crowed with a triumphant grin. Totapo scribbled furiously in his notebook. Leek peered at the tally. Strike 2 for Pumbukin. Pumbukin bit his lip. He was slipping behind, and frustration made his knuckles white. He clenched his fist as he readied his last card. Let's get this over with, Toma muttered, flipping his final card. Scissors, he announced. Scissors, Bardock confirmed. Salipa? He dared to glance over. Paper, she laughed. Pumbukin swallowed. Paper. He laid down his card, the table falling silent as everyone waited for the last reveal. Pumbukin slammed his fist on the table and spat out a string of curses. Without a word, he stood up so fast his chair flew backward, clattering against the wooden floor. He stomped through the door of his little hut, not even bothering to knock it closed. Inside, the room shook with the force of his slam. Toma doubled over with laughter, clutching his sides as red crept up his cheeks. I'll never understand why he takes this game so seriously, he gasped between giggles. At least come back and watch me win, Pumbukin. From inside the hut came a muffled shout. Let me know when we go on our next mission. The door banged shut so hard the whole place echoed. Bardock shook his head with a bemused smirk. Salipa nodded toward the table. Strike 2 for Pumbukin, she said, keeping her tone calm. Totapo dealt 1 extra card to each of the 3 remaining Saiyans, Toma, Bardock, and Salipa, while Leek lounged back, eyes bright with anticipation. It almost always came down to these 3. Maybe it'd be Salipa this time, or maybe Toma, or even Bardock. That uncertainty was what made it so thrilling. Toma slammed his new card down. Paper, he announced confidently. Salipa's lips curled in a sly smile as she revealed hers. Scissors. Bardock followed, voice low and steady. Scissors. Totapo tapped his pen on the score sheet. Strike 2 for Toma. Bardock gave a quiet, polite nod. His second strike in, just like Pumbukin before him. Now it all came down to one final throw. 23 free sets of Saibamen, riding on this last hand. They took a deep breath and flipped their cards at once. Toma's was rock. Bardock's was rock. Salipa's was paper. Toma buried his face in his hand. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered, voice thick with disappointment. He hated losing, whether in battle or in a simple game of chance. He'd known it was just luck, but that didn't stop the sting. Salipa laughed and scooped up every bottle. I'm going to have 100 of these things tearing up the next planet, she declared, her eyes sparkling. Just imagine the chaos. Leek shook his head. That's a real waste of Saibai-men. Salipa shrugged. Think I care? This is for fun. Bardock folded his arms. I'd rather fight and cause destruction myself than watch dumb monsters do it. Toma grinned and nudged Salipa. I don't know about the others, but I'm in. That sounds like a blast. She winked. All right, you can come. How about you, Bardock? He snorted. Count me out. I'd rather throw down than babysit a bunch of goo. Totapo nodded. Looks like he's out. Leek stretched. I'm staying here. I need to rest and stock up before my next mission. Toma leaned over and tapped Leek on the shoulder. Cough. Wuss. Cough. Leek glared. What was that? Toma cleared his throat and tried, and failed, to stop his grin. Nothing. Suddenly, Totapo looked toward the door. Someone's coming. All eyes snapped to the entrance. While the others stared hard, Bardock relaxed. A small smile touched his lips. It's just Taro, he said. Salipa laughed. You mean Toma's twin? Who else? Bardock asked, shrugging. Toma's face flushed. Taro isn't my damn twin. Leek chuckled. Still your brother. He's you, but bald with a mustache. Heh heh. Toma huffed and slid back into his chair. Totapo settled in too, and the two of them began shuffling their cards again. Taro stepped forward, his once broad shoulders now a bit stooped with age, yet still radiating quiet authority. As the crew gathered around, he opened the massive assignment ledger, a thick, leather-bound book etched with the royal seal. This book held every mission a Saiyan could accept, along with notes on those who never returned. If a group didn't check back in on time, King Vegeta himself would dispatch higher-class warriors to investigate. Successful returnees were crossed off and rewarded without delay. He offered his hand to Bardock with a warm grin. "Long time no see, Bardock," he said, his voice carrying the rasp of years spent barking orders on the battlefield. Standing shorter and stockier than his lean younger brother, Taro still commanded respect. Bardock clasped his hand in a firm shake. "Good to see you still breathing," Taro added with a chuckle. As they released hands, Taro's eyes swept over the rest of the team. "All these years and you chumps are still together, huh?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Toma shot back with a grin. "We're not quitters like you." He jabbed his thumb at Taro, who simply rolled his eyes in mock offense. "Retired or not," Taro replied, flipping through pages until he found the one he was looking for. "The king still calls me for special missions." The others laughed, remembering Taro's boastful pride. Salipa leaned forward, peering at the ledger. "So, what's the plan at this time?" she asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I hope it's something exciting." Taro's grin turned sly. "I've got something nice in mind," he teased, his finger tapping a line in the book. Salipa laughed, spinning on her heel until her laughter turned to a snort. "No wonder you don't have any kids," she howled. Ignoring her mockery, Taro turned to the page he'd marked. "Planet Kanasa. Perfect for you all." He traced the lines of data. Breathable atmosphere, rocky plains dotted with crystalline formations, and a strange violet sun that bathed the world in eerie light. Bardock scoffed and slid onto a nearby crate. "Coming to a ragtag crew about a world like that? Whoever signs up is asking for a death wish?" Toma's eyes lit up as he stood and grabbed the book. He read aloud the key points. "Atmosphere, breathable, no masks needed. Next full moon in 6 weeks." He paused, eyes widening. "And we arrive in about 996 hours. The timing's perfect." Salipa frowned. "Did you even look at their estimated power levels?" she asked, folding her arms. Taro replied, "Estimates say their fighters range from power level 100 to 1000. Not much of a threat." Toma arched an eyebrow. "Then why has this mission been on the docket for 3 years? Back when you were still active?" 3 years? Leek jumped in, genuine surprise in his voice. "Nobody's touched it since then?" Taro nodded slowly. "Too many found it. Well, boring. I wanted real challenge, not to wipe out weaklings." He closed the book with a soft thud. "Even the king avoids this one. Something's off." "Rumor is they have mystical powers that let them see the future," Bardock said, leaning forward. "Several mid-class Saiyan squads tried to conquer them. None returned. Their foresight gives them time to plan around our attacks. Raw strength won't be enough." "Not even the Ginyu Force?" Totapo asked, eyes gleaming at the sight of a real challenge. "Not even them," Bardock replied, voice low. "Frieza's best went in, none came out. Who's to say we fare any better?" Toma laughed, throwing his head back. "For someone who loves risks, you sure sound scared." Bardock's eyes flicked to Toma. He knew exactly what his friend was thinking, and it worried him. "I never said I wouldn't take the mission," he began, voice low. "But our chances of survival are next to 0. If any of you go, you can bet I'll be right beside you. That's my promise." Leek pushed himself up from the table, determination in his gaze. "Then, we're in this together." He glanced at each teammate, unspoken bonds of battle shining in their eyes. In the heat of combat, Saiyans forged loyalty stronger than steel. Salipa stood tall, fearless as ever. "With our friendly Saibaman," she smirked, "we should be able to distract them just fine." Bardock muttered under his breath. Not like they won't see it coming, but he kept his worry to himself. Toma's heart hammered in his chest. All his life, he dreamed of rising above the low ranks, and this mission could seal his promotion, or end him. Either way, he felt ready, especially with comrades he considered family. Taro cleared his throat. "Well, I can't leave any of you behind, can I?" His old shoulders straightened. Salipa raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you retired?" Toma jumped in. "So he isn't joining us?" Taro chuckled, voice booming like distant thunder. "And who are you to tell me what I can't do? If you're all going out to die, the whole team's going back out, together. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I would say bring Jean too, but that wouldn't end well. Bardock nodded firmly. She's definitely not coming. She's too weak. Power levels there could reach 1,000, and she's clumsy in a fight. She'd be a liability. Taro waved a hand. All right, everyone, stock up on rations. We'll be gone a while. With a final nod, he shot up into the sky, vanishing among the clouds. Back on planet Vegeta, Bardock hovered outside a simple home. Inside, young Kakarot swung a small knife with surprising skill, slicing fruit for supper. Not even a day of practice with Whis had passed, but already the boy moved with the swift precision of a born fighter. Good job, Kakarot! Jean praised, ruffling his hair. Bardock pushed open the door and stepped inside. Both Gin and Kakarot turned to look at him. He held out a small sack. You got any rations for me to bring on another mission? You're about to head out already? Jean asked, hope and worry in her voice. She hadn't expected Bardock to leave again so soon. Yes, Bardock told Jean. And that's it for today's episode, guys. If you watched to the end, then that could be an indication that you enjoy the series. So please leave a like on the video. Thank you and take care.